Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, Rusty's Mustang Garage. Today is going to be part 4 in a series that I'm doing building a body jig for my Classic Mustang. I may break this up into 2 parts, part A, part B, just seeing how long it goes. So at this point, the jig is built, it's painted, it's ready to go. As you can see, just sitting up here on sawhorses, waiting for me to do a couple more checks and set up the first 2 attachment points to get ready to put under the car. I did run into some issues while building it, and I want to point those out in the video just so maybe it'll help some people so they won't run into the same issues. So we're going to cut now to the build sequence of the video already in progress. All right, it's the next day now, and I have the main rails up on the sawhorses so I can start drilling some alignment holes in the top of the rails. The purpose of the alignment holes is to help with the tram gauge, to make sure I have everything square on the jig and to actually help build the jig. So let's go take a look at the setup and let's get going. All right, main rails are up on the sawhorses. This is the tram gauge that I'm going to be using. It's got some pointers that will hopefully fit into the little holes I'm going to be drilling on the top of the rail. But first I have to measure out the rails and center punch for those holes. That's what we're going to be doing next. So what I basically did was I started the back of the rails and made a mark, which is going to be the back of the trunk. And then moving forward, we just kind of laid out some alignment points. Like here's going to be an alignment point. Another alignment point here, a third one here, and a fourth one here. What those alignment points will do is I will be able to measure the rails side to side and forward to back and diagonally to make sure that everything is being welded squarely, because I'm going to be relying on this jig to make sure the car is square. So if the jig is not square, I'm going to have difficulties with the car. Alright, so how I've been describing these center lines basically is I'm drawing a line across, and then I'm using a mark to reference it from one side, using the same mark to reference it from the other side. That leaves me a little window, and basically all I'm doing at that point is carefully lining the punch up by eye in the middle of the window, making sure I'm on the center line, giving it a quick tap, and that's it. We then take a set of calipers and basically looking at it one way, the marks pretty much fall identically. So the center of those 2 marks is the center of the top of the rail. So basically, I just repeated the process for the other alignment points. So this is what the tram gauge tips will look like when inserted into the alignment points. Here I am spraying a little primer into the holes that I drilled for the alignment points, just so they don't rust. Okay, so now I'm starting to set the side-to-side distance between the 2 main rails. These first few braces are just clamped in place, and all they're doing is holding the distance between the 2 rails constant. I'm also using the tram gauge and taking diagonal measurements to make sure the two rails are square to each other. Yes, it was a lot of measuring, and remeasuring, trying to make sure everything stayed square. Besides measuring and checking to make sure it was squared, at this point I also started leveling the frame with the laser level. So now that the main rails are square and level, it's time to start fitting in the cross members. Alright, it's taken a while to get this first one lined up for welding. Learned a couple things on the way. Got to make sure all the ends fit correctly, and maybe leave a little bit of a gap between them, that way it slides in easier. So this is how we have it set up so far. As you can see, I'm using 2 fireball squares on each side of the cross member, 1 minion on each side. I've basically used the minion to set the distance from one of my reference points, and I've used the other 2 squares to make sure everything is square. I went around checking all 4 corners again, and they're all at 13.5, so we're still level. Not sure if you can see the green line on the tape measure. So once I'm satisfied the cross member is square, it's time to tack it in place. Joints, just to get everything tacked in place. Time to go on to the next cross member. What I'll do is the next one goes over here. And just like the first cross member, the second one took a bunch of fitting to get in place. Once the 2 inner cross members were tacked in place, it was time to start working on the outer 2 cross members. And once again, a lot of measuring to make sure everything was square. Alright, so I'm having a bit of a problem with the main rails having a bit of a bow to them. It appears that the driver's side rail is bowing slightly to the outside, and I believe the passenger side rail is bowing slightly to the inside. So the whole assembly together has a slight bow to the driver's side. The way I'm checking this is using 2 string lines. As we all know, a string pulled tight between 2 points is going to be straight. So let's check out how this is set up. As you can see, this string on the outboard side of the driver's side rail is not touching the rail. This is telling me that this beam has a slight curve to the outside of the rail. Alright, so I'll probably do it for the first part. I'm going to break this up into 2 parts. Part B is coming up soon. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when part B comes out. It'll probably only a few days because all the videos have already been shot. I didn't need to edit it together and make a part B out of it. So hit that subscribe button and get ready for the next video.